So in this video, I will be doing a video walkthrough of Digital SAT Bluebook Practice Test Number 1, Reading and Writing Module 2, and it's going to be a hard module. A little about myself, my name is Azamat, and I'm a tutor in Schoolhouse, and I've helped hundreds of students to increase their SAT score. Without further ado, let's get started. So question number 1. We are first gonna look at the passage and understand what we need. In habitats with limited nutrients, certain fungus species grow on the roots of trees, engaging in mutually beneficial relationships known as. I'm not gonna bother myself reading these types of names and titles in the real exam. So in this sort of exchange, the tree provides the fungus with carbon, a nutrient necessary for both species. And the fungus does something by enhancing the tree's ability to absorb nitrogen, another key ingredient from the soil. So I want a verb that is related to mutually benefiting both species. So let's look at the choices. Overreact, it has nothing to do with mutually beneficial. So A is wrong because, as I said, reciprocate, it's exactly what I was looking for. It means benefit mutually. So B is the correct answer choice in this case. What about C? No, it doesn't make sense in this case because what we need is mutually benefit. Deviate? No. It's just pointless in this case. So question number 2. Again, first I'm gonna look at the text. Handedness, a preferential use of either the right or left hand, typically is easy to observe in humans. Because this trait is present but less, so it's present, but then we have a contrasting word, but. So after that, we need something like not present. And not can be replaced with less. So we can remove not. So we need a word which is like present. It has to be the synonym of present in this case. So let's have a look at the choices. Recognizable. Yeah, it's definitely a synonym for present. Intriguing? Are we talking anything about interesting or intriguing? No. Significant? Are we talking about the value? Is it significant or less significant? No. We are just talking about the presence of it. Useful? We're not talking about the usefulness. So A is the correct answer choice. You just have to look for words that are just paraphrases or synonyms. You always have to look for these kinds of hints. Question number 3. Again, I'm gonna first look at the text. In Nature Poem 2017, so poet portrays his something, the natural world by honoring the centrality of nature within his tribe's traditional beliefs while simultaneously expressing his distaste for being in wilderness settings himself. So I want a noun that means both honoring and distaste. So always just guess the choice before going to the answer choices. So let's have a look at the choices. Responsiveness to, it doesn't mean both honoring and distaste, right? So A is incorrect. Ambivalence toward. Yes, exactly. Ambivalence means having sort of conflicting feelings, and it's literally the same. Honoring and distaste, these are two different conflicting feelings. So I'm pretty sure that that B is correct. But still, let's have a look at the other answer choices. Renunciation. What does renunciation mean? It means rejecting something. So that's why you need to know words in these types of cases. My suggestion to you is to use College Panda 400 words and IB Global. And these words are really great, and I've seen a lot of those words coming up in these practice tests as well. Mastery over? No, there's nothing about this state in C. So the correct answer is B. So let's move on to question number 4. So text. Some scientists have suggested that mammals in this era, I'm not going to read those types of names because it's going to take a lot of time and they're not essential. So those mammals were not a very something, okay, group. We need an adjective here. So, but someone's research suggests that early mammals living in the shadow of dinosaurs weren't all ground dwelling. Okay, fossils of various plant-eating mammals have been found. Okay, so various, that's important, have been found in China, including species like those which Luo says could glide like a flying squirrel. Okay, so the main word, I firstly thought the main word was like weren't all ground dwelling. Yeah, it's kind of that, but we also have various, which is really important. So here we have a contrasting word. So before this contrasting word, we need uh, not various, right? Not various, because here we have various, but before that there is but. So here there has to be an opposite of it, which is not various. So we're not, we can like remove not because we already have not here. So various, we need a word that is exactly the same as various. Let's have a look at the choices. Diverse, yes. I mean, it's definitely the synonym of various. Here, the trap might be localized. This might be a trap. Why? Because you may not have like, paid attention to the word but, or maybe you didn't realize that there was a word not in this case. So this is the complete opposite. Obscure, it doesn't make sense. Predatory, no, it doesn't make sense. So question number 5. Critics have asserted that fine art and fashion rarely, always look for these types of words, rarely, not always, usually, but always look for these types of words. In a world where artists create timeless works. So artists create timeless works. There's no time, there's no sort of a period when it's going to be a trend or something. And designers periodically produce, so designers, on the other hand, produce periodically new styles. For example, the style that was trending in 1900s is not a style that is trending now, for example. So it's a complete like a contrast, right? Artists create timeless works, whereas designers create work like produce styles that are periodical. Uh-huh. And then here we have example of that. So what sort of word am I looking for in this case? Fine art and fashion rarely is not related or kind of rarely intersect would be a better word, I guess. Yeah, I'm looking for a word like intersect or related. So let's have a look at the choices. Prevail? No, it doesn't make sense. Here we have intersect, right? Exactly, I found the right word. Diverge is the complete opposite. Like fashion and art are different things because in art they're timeless, but in design they are periodical. So they rarely intersect. They don't intersect. But diverging means like the complete opposite, not intersecting. So D is correct. Question number 6. The author's claim about the relationship between these two, okay, is something. So we need an adjective, as it fails to account for several recent archaeological discoveries. To be convincing, so that means it's not convincing. So to be convincing, his argument would need to address recent finds of additional fossils such as blah blah blah. So in this case, so if it fails to account for discoveries and to be convincing, it needs some additional details. It's unconvincing, right? So the word I'm looking for is unconvincing. Unconvincing. So let's have a look at the choices. Disorienting means being confused. I mean, I'm not sure whether this is the right fit here. Why? Because being confused is not equal to being like unconvinced, because the argument might be convincing, but you yourself might be confused about all these. It's not really related. Tenuous, you need to word this word because tenuous means unconvincing. It means weak. So B is the exact word that it can be the synonym of unconvincing. Nuanced, it doesn't make sense here. Nuanced means new and always, yeah. Unoriginal, nothing about being original or not. So question number 7. The provenance of, I'm not gonna bother myself reading it, was situated on the Pacific coast hundreds of kilometers. That's important. Hundreds of kilometers. Okay, because its location within the empire was so, I think it's gonna be something like far away. So the word I'm looking for is far away. Far away. Let's continue reading. Cacao and other trade goods produced there could reach the capital only after a long overland journey. So even here, long journey. So let's have a look at the choices. What I'm looking for is far away. So A, unobtrusive. It B, concealed. They both kind of mean like being hidden. Being hidden does not mean that it is far away. It might be very approximate. It might be very near to you, but it might be hidden, right? It doesn't really uh, correlate to being far away. Proximate is the complete opposite. Peripheral, it exactly means being far away. So D is correct. Question number 8. So question, the function of the underlined sentence. Okay. Some students think that they just need to read the sentence that is underlined and that's it. But that's not correct. You gotta read the whole text. So several studies have found negligible electoral consequences for governments that impose these measures. Yet some European governments recently suffered due to their austerity programs. Okay. So these colleagues attribute this incongruity to government's tendency, not followed in the recent European cases, to implement austerity programs strategically to avoid these costs, which has obscured the inherent political risks of austerity measures in the election data scholars have examined. So choice B is identifies a conflict between research findings and recent events that the text goes on to suggest is a consequence of a complicating factor in the data used to generate those findings. Exactly, because the underlined claim is like functions to exactly say the conflict between these findings and recent events. So B is correct. Choice C, it presents a long-standing divergence. I'm not sure. In research findings that the text goes on to say is due to different groups of researchers. No, this underlying sentence is not written to say this. I mean, different group of researchers. No, it describes a recent exception to a general pattern. No, there's no exception. So it is wrong. So let's move on. Question number 9. So let's look at the question first. Based on the text, how does the Lord Chancellor respond to the crowd? Okay, we need his response to the crowd. Anything, we don't need anything else. So it's from a novel. Okay, a crowd has gathered outside a room belonging to the warden, an official who reports to the Lord Chancellor. One man who was more excited than the rest flung his hat high into the air and shouted, as well as I could make out, "Hurrah for the sub-warden!" Everybody roared, but whether it was for the sub-warden or not did not clearly appear. Some were shouting bread, some taxes, and no one seemed to know what it was really wanted. They wanted. All this I saw from the open window of the warden's breakfast saloon, looking across the shoulder of the Lord Chancellor. What can it all mean? So from here, the response of the Lord begins. He kept repeating to himself, "I never heard such shouting before, and at this time of the morning too, and with such unanimity." Unanimity means a kind of being united. Yeah, kind of being united. So let's have a look at the choices. He asks about the meaning of the crowd shouting, even though he claims to know what the crowd wants. He doesn't claim to know what the crowd wants because he himself is asking what can it all mean. So A is incorrect. He indicates a desire to speak to the crowd, even though the crowd has asked it to speak to the subwarden. I mean, does he indicate a desire to speak? Is he saying that he wants to speak to the crowd? I'm not sure. Let's leave this choice. So see, it expresses sympathy for the crowd's demands, even though the crowd's shouting annoys him. I mean, sympathy, that's a lot of like an extreme word. Do we have something around being excited, like sympathy? Something positive? I'm not sure. We don't have anything that is positive. So C is incorrect. D, it describes the crowd as being united. Yes, united means unanimity, even though the crowd clearly appears otherwise. Although the crowd is not that sort of united, Lord is describing the crowd as being united. So, how do we know that the crowd clearly appears not united? Because some people are shouting bread, some people are shouting taxes, but no one knew what was they really wanted. So D is correct. You might say, what about B? I mean, we don't really know whether Lord is indicating a desire to speak. Is he saying that he has a desire to speak? I'm not sure. In this case, the best choice is D. So let's move on. Question number 10. So we have to use the data from the graph to complete the statements. It's command of evidence quantitative. So let's read. The population of something declined significantly around 9,000 years ago in the sea and around 11,000 years ago near the coast. Using the ratio of M to C, let's say it like that because I'm not gonna waste my time if I had this question to read those because I have so limited time in the real SAT, which inversely correlates with ocean oxygenation levels. Marine scientists and colleagues evaluated whether oxygenation played a role in the decline. So, does oxygenation play a role in the declines? So, the researchers concluded that oxygenation may have been important in the sea, but not near the coast. Okay, so we gotta support it. So let's have a look at the answer choices. A substantial increase in oxygenation in Albertan Sea corresponded with the local decline. I'm not sure whether we need it, but the opposite relationship between oxygenation and L. pertusa was found near the Malutisian coast. So it's not clearly supporting the fact that oxygenation was important in the sea but not near the coast. So A is incorrect. B. Albertusa declined in the Albertan Sea during a period of substantial local decline in oxygen. So that's true. That's true. But Albertusa declined near the Maltarian coast during a period of little local change in oxygenation. Yes, that's also true, and it literally supports. So B is correct. So C, oxygenation in the Albertan Sea was higher before the decline than after the decline. Are we talking about before and after the decline? I'm not sure, so C is incorrect. D, oxygenation in the sea tended to be substantially higher than oxygenation near the coast. We are not comparing these oxygenations, so D is incorrect. Let's move on to question number 11. Born in 1891 to a Quechua speaking family, so I'm not gonna bother myself reading this if I was in the real exam. So in those mountains is today considered to be one of the most renowned works figures of Latin American photography. Okay, in a paper for an art history class, a student claims that Chambe's photographs have considerably intergraphic value. Okay. In his work, Chambe was able to capture diverse elements of Peruvian society, representing his subjects with both dignity and authenticity. So the most important word here is capturing those diverse elements of the society. Okay, let's have a look at the choices. Which one supports the claim? By the way, in some cases, you might have also weaken or undermine. So always read that. In this case, we have support. Chambe took many commissioned portraits of wealthy Peruvians, but he also produced hundreds of images carefully documenting the people, sites, and customs of indigenous communities of the Andes. These are all various elements, right? Portraits of wealthy people and hundreds of images of people, sites, and customs of the communities. And this is exactly what I was looking for. We have a lot of like diverse, various elements of the society. B, the Chambe's photographs demonstrate a high level of technical skill. Are we talking about technical skill? No, right? So B is incorrect. During his lifetime, Chambe was known and celebrated both within and outside his native Peru, as his work was published in places like Argentina, Spain, and Mexico. Are we talking about being known, being renowned for both within and outside? We're not talking about the place Chambi was famous in. Some of the people and places Chambi photographed had long been popular subjects for Peruvian photographs. No, it doesn't support that claim. So, question number 11. Which quotation from the interviews best illustrates the journalist's claim? Okay, so here we have a claim, but still, I'm gonna read the whole text to have a background information. So, art collectives like the United States and Vietnam-based collective, the Propeller Group, or Cuba's Los Carpinteros, are groups of artists who agree to work together, perhaps for the stylistic reasons, or to advance certain shared political ideals, or to help mitigate the cost of supplies and studio space. Regardless of the reasons, art collectives usually involve some collaboration among the artists. Based on a recent series of interviews with various art collectives, an arts journalist claims that this can be difficult for artists who are often used to having sole control over their work. So until here, the text was saying that was the text was literally telling that working together is good, but now working together is bad because it's difficult. So why? Because many of the artists are uh, like were used to have a sole control. Sole means only like having the solitary control over their work. So let's have a look at the choices. The first collective I joined included many amazing, talented artists. We enjoyed each other's company, but because we had a hard time sharing credit and responsibility for our work, the collective didn't last. So in this case, he's talking about that. It's telling that um, working together cannot always be good. It can be bad, right? So A might be true, right? So B, we work together, but that doesn't mean that individual projects are equally the work of all of us. Many of our projects are primarily the responsibility of whoever originally proposed the work to the group. It's not saying that working together is can be bad, right? It's just saying a claim about it, the feature of working together. So B is wrong. Having worked as a member of the collective for several years, it's sometimes hard to recall what it was like to work alone without the collective support. But that support encourages my individual expression rather than limits it. So it's saying that working together can be good, but we want something that says working together can be bad. So C is wrong. D. Sometimes an artist from outside the collective will choose to collaborate with us on a project. But all of those projects fit within the larger themes of the work the collective does on its own. It's not talking about whether the working together is good or bad. So it is wrong. So the correct answer is A. Let's have let's move on to the next question. Question number 13. We need to support the hypotheses. Researchers hypothesize. Oh, good. We literally have hypotheses at the beginning. I guess this is good because you're not gonna waste a lot of time reading the background information. But still, reading background information is good. But in this case, it doesn't require us. So a decline in the population of dusky sharks. So decline in dusky sharks near the mid-Atlantic coast led to a decline in the population of eastern oysters. Okay, this led to decline of eastern oysters. In the region, dusky sharks do not typically consume eastern oysters, So dusky sharks do not consume Easter oysters, but they do consume Kaunas rays, which are the main predators of the oysters. So that means that if dusky sharks, if DS consumes Kaunas rays, if there's a decline in dusky sharks, the dusky sharks will not consume Kaunas rays, and there are gonna be a lot of them. Because dusky sharks do not consume them, there are gonna be an increase of Kaunas rays. As a result, uh, Kaunas rays will consume eastern oysters, which will lead to the decline of eastern oysters. So that's my way of interpreting this text. So we need to support this. Declines in the regional abundance of dusky sharks prey other than Kono's rays are associated with regional declines in dusky shark abundance. I mean, why do we care about like other than Kono's rays? I mean, it's not related here. We just have to support this. We have to mention just three of these things, and that's it. We don't have to care about any other thing. So B. E or abundance tends to be greater in areas with both dusky sharks and Kaunos rays than in areas with only dusky sharks. So let me interpret it. So abundance tends to be greater in areas with both. I mean, no, it's not supporting this. Yeah, it's not supporting it. Just saying the random facts, and it's comparing the areas, right, where there are both dusky sharks and Kaunos rays with the places where there is only dusky sharks. We don't need that to support it. So see, consumption of eastern oysters by Kaunos rays in the region substantially increased before the regional decline in dusky shark abundance began. Do we care about the time before? No, we don't care about the time. We just need to support the hypothesis. And our hypothesis is this. Shows the Kaunos rays have increased. So Kaunos rays have increased, okay, in regional abundance as dusky sharks have decreased. Dusky sharks decreased. Dusky sharks. So is that correct? Will this support? Yeah, it will support it. Exactly. It will definitely support because this is the same as this one, right? So I literally wanted this. It's literally supporting it, right? It's the same. So D is correct. Question number 14. Again, we gotta support the argument. In the 20th century, ethnographers made a concerted effort to collect Mexican American folklore. Okay. But they did not always agree about the folklore's origins. Scholars such as claimants that Mexican American folklore derived largely from the folklore of Spain, which ruled Mexico, and what is now the southern United States from the 16th to early 19th centuries. Scholars such as someone by contrast, argued that while some Spanish influence is undeniable, Mexican American folklore is mainly the product of ongoing interactions of various cultures in Mexico and the United States. So we want something related to ongoing interactions of various cultures in Mexico and the United States. Okay, so let's have a look at the choices. The folklore that the ethnographers collected included several songs written in the form of a decimal type of poem originating in late 16th century Spain? No. It's not supporting it. It's not telling that there's an ongoing interaction of various cultures. Much of the folklore that they collected had similar elements from region to region. Are they saying similar? No. There are various cultures, right? So B is wrong because it's literally telling the opposite. See, most of the folklore that they collect was previously unknown to scholars. It's not supporting it. It gotta support the ongoing interactions of various cultures. So C is wrong. D. Most of the folklore that the ethnographers collected consisted of corridas, ballads about history and social life of a clearly recent origin. Yes, here we have a clearly recent origin, right? So clearly recent origin is representing the ongoing interaction of various cultures. So D is correct. This is reason. So question number 15, sex completion. Birds of many species inject food containing I'm not gonna bother myself reading it. So there are molecules that are converted into feather coloration. Okay. Coloration tends to be especially saturated in male birds' feathers, and because they also confer health benefits, okay, the deeply saturated colors generally serve to communicate what's known as an honest signal of a bird's overall fitness to potential mates. Okay, it's an honest signal of the fitness. However, they have found that males in several species of this, I'm not going to bother myself reading it, use microstructures in their feathers to manipulate light, creating the appearance of deeper saturation without the birds necessarily having to maintain a rich diet. Carotenoid rich diet. These findings suggest that. So let's have a look at the choices. Individual male teenagers can engage in honest signaling without relying on canoid consumption. Maybe. Let's have a look at other choices. Further, microstructures may be less effective than deeply saturated feathers for signaling overall fitness. Are they comparing these two? Are they saying which one is more effective, which one is less effective? No, we don't care about effectiveness. Scientists have yet to determine why teenagers have a preference for mates with colorful appearances. No, there's nothing about that. A male teenager's appearance may function as a dishonest signal of the individual's overall fitness. Yeah, D is correct. It's like literally completing the text. So let's continue. Question number 16. Among social animals that care for their young, such as chickens, monkeys, and humans, newborns appear to show an innate attraction to faces and face-like stimuli. Okay, so newborns have an innate attraction to faces and face-like stimuli. So Hans, she or he and her colleagues, so she and her colleagues used an image of three black dots arranged in the shape of eyes and a nose or mouth to test whether this trait occurs in those types of species which live alone. Okay, so they live alone and they do not engage in potential care. They found that they showed a significant preference for the image. So, suggesting that my guess is it doesn't matter whether they are alone or not. It's still newborns have an innate attraction to faces. Even like the research that went on with this species, which live alone, they still showed a preference for the image, for the face-like stimuli. So, face-like stimuli are likely perceived as harmless by newborns of social species uh, that practice potential care, but as threatening by newborns of solitary species without potential care. No. What we need is something related to how can I say that like the location or like being alone or not alone doesn't matter. We need that sort of an opinion. Researchers should not assume that an innate attraction to face stimuli is necessarily an adaptation related to social interaction or potential care. Exactly, this is exactly the choice that I was looking for. It literally is paraphrasing what I said. Researchers can assume that attraction to face-like stimuli is seen in social species that practice parental care is learned rather than innate. No, it's innate. It's not. The C is saying that it's not innate. Rather, it's learned. No, it's not like that. It's innate. Newly hatched show a stronger preference for face-like than adult ones. We're not comparing adult ones and newly species. So D is wrong. Now let's move on to question number 19. Recently, so question number 17, when external forces are applied to common glass made from silicates, energy builds up around defects in the material resulting in fractures. Recently, engineer in Finland used the chemical compound aluminum oxide to make a glassy solid that can withstand higher strain than silicate glass can before fracturing. Okay, so we need to know what the chemical compound is. So the name of a chemical compound is essential. So we know that C is incorrect. Why? Because aluminum oxide in choice C is non-essential. But the name of this chemical compound is essential, so D is correct. A and B are grammatically incorrect because they need to have either two commas between it or nothing. So in this case, because it is essential, we don't need commas. Question number 18. So in this case, from the choices, I can see that three choices are in plural, and the only one that is singular is D. So still, let's have a look at the text. Interestingly, the triangle representing the mountain itself. So triangle is singular, right? So D is correct. That's easy. Like you can answer these questions in like 5-10 seconds. Okay. So in 2007 article, plant cell biologists showed. So the name of a biologist is essential. So C is correct. Literally. B is grammatically incorrect. A is grammatically incorrect. But if you chose D, it would mean like plant cell biologist showed. But I mean, which biologist? We don't really know because the name of a biologist is really essential. So let's move on. 20. Researchers studying have determined why some roundworms move in the opposite direction when searching for food. Okay. So until here, it is a independent clause. It's a complete sentence. In the northern hemisphere, the magnetic field points down into the ground, but in the southern hemisphere, it points up towards. So from here, this is also a independent clause, and even from here to here, it's also independent clause. So to connect them, we either need period or semicolon. So let's have a look at the choices. Or we can also put a colon. Why? Because it's explaining here, right? So in this case, A is correct. 21. Like this one is plural, this one is plural, and this one is also plural, but is singular. Let's have a look at here. Let's have a look here. Like this one is a non-essential clause and we can easily eliminate it because it's not essential to us. Okay, thousands of statues of warriors found interred near the tomb were shocked to realize that the shape. So what is important is the shape of each ears is unique, right? Some people might think that the subject here is ears. No, it's not, because here we have of. Anything after like in, of, at is non-essential. So the shape is the subject. So is 22. Okay. Hopper's subsequent career would involve more than just equations. As a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would help usher in the digital age. He does not just uh, solve like equations; he also help usher in the digital age. So it's explaining, right? So we need a colon here. Okay, so A is correct. Yeah, A is correct. Let's move on. Question number 23. It's a transition question. Okay, Earth's hour's colorful displays of light seen above the northern and southern poles result, broadly speaking, from the sun's activity. The sun releases charged particles that are captured by Earth's magnetic field. Okay, these particles. So, sun's activity is exemplified here. Like these two sentences following the first sentence are explaining the sun's activity. So to explain anything, we need like giving examples, exemplifying. To give an example, we need for example or for instance or specifically. So I'm searching these three. Specifically, yes, as I said, specifically is used to exemplify. Question number 24. Some members of the US Supreme Court have resisted calls to televise the court's oral arguments, concerned that the participants would be tempted to perform for the cameras. Okay, so they would be tempted to perform for the cameras and thus lower the quality of the discourse. The justice worried that most viewers would not even watch, only short clips that could be misinterpreted and mischaracterized. So firstly, it's saying a claim, and then it's telling another claim. So a word that I'm looking for is sort of an addition. It might be in addition, or it might be additionally, or it might be moreover. Let's have a look at the choices. However, addition in comparison, for example. So here as well. Here we have additionally. Let's move on to question number 25. This is also a transition question. The more diverse and wide-ranging an animal's behavior, the larger and more energy demanding the animal's brain tends to be. From an evolutionary perspective, animals that perform only basic actions, okay, if they perform only basic actions, they should allocate fewer resources to growing and maintaining brain tissue. The specialized subtypes of ants provide an opportunity to explore these hypotheses. So it's kind of a cause and effect relationship here because it's saying a claim and then it's telling from this we can conclude this, right? It's a cause and effect. So I'm looking for a word like hence or therefore or thus. Thus is the exact word that I was looking for. 26. So we don't need to read the notes except some cases. But in module 2, if you can differentiate between some options, I recommend you to read, but in most cases, don't read it, especially in module 1. But still, this is module 2, so I might need to read the notes if I'm not 100% sure between the choices. The student wants to emphasize the duration and purpose of the work. Okay, I need a duration and purpose, and that's it. That's simple, right? There's nothing about the duration in A. There's nothing about the duration of a study. Like you might think that there's a duration since the 18th century, but it's not the study's duration. The study was not since the 18th century. It was people who have lived in the United States. It's not the study that have been conducted since that time. Since 2003, yes, here we have a duration, right? So there is one check, right? Influenced by the traditional here as well. We don't have a duration of a study. So C is correct. Even if I didn't check for purpose, right? Let's have a look. Let's check whether there is purpose here. Have worked to preserve the culture through their museums. So the purpose was to preserve the culture. So C is correct. So the last question. Students wants to emphasize the aim of the research study. Okay, so we want the aim or like a kind of a purpose, right? You gotta have something. We did something to do something. We needed to know something, right? Researchers wanted to know which factors influence lizard egg clutch size because such factors have been well studied in birds but not in lizards. So that's correct because it's saying that the aim, like the researchers wanted to know it. No, it's not saying the purpose. No, no. So if you like this video, boot the like button.